The deepest mysteries of our faith can only be understood by someone who has a deep faith. Understanding requires much more than just intellectual knowledge. It also requires an interior attentiveness to the voice of God. For that reason, as Jesus spoke to the crowds, he used parables and figures of speech rather than speaking directly about the mysteries of heaven. By analogy, if you were to attend a very special feast and you had well-formed taste buds, you might enjoy being served the best cut of meat, cooked to perfection with a fine glass of wine. But to a small child, such a meal might not be that appealing. The same is true with music. If you were a musician who studied and played throughout your life, then you might have a greater appreciation for certain types of music, such as classical and Gregorian chant. Others might simply be drawn to a certain type of music by the beat or because it has catchy lyrics, such as pop or rock. In a similar way, a person who only has a little faith might not be immediately drawn into the deepest mystical truths of God when they are explained directly and clearly. Instead, they might find a simplified gospel message that uses stories and parables that are better able to catch their attention and communicate the message. This is good to understand because it is good for us to turn to the means of communication with God most suited for our depth of faith and understanding. For most people, it will be very useful to see themselves as one of those people in the crowds to whom Jesus spoke his parables. We should especially see ourselves as part of the crowds as we begin our journey of faith. But when a person has spent much time in prayer, meditation, and contemplation over the course of many years, and their faith begins to deepen, they may find that parables and stories are not as inspiring as they once were. They need more. They long for God to speak to them more clearly and deeply. Practically speaking, as your faith grows, it is good to look for the deeper ways that God speaks to you. How does he come to you and explain his holy will and the truths of faith more directly, as Jesus did to the apostles? Perhaps by reading the Bible, the lives of the saints, the Catechism of the Catholic Church, or some other spiritual book will engage you more deeply. Reflect today upon the way that you are most fully fed by God's holy word at this point in your life. The best way to identify this is to consider what it is that has given you the most consolation and inspiration as of late. How has God's word most powerfully resonated within you over the past year? Continue to seek out God's voice and be open to allowing him to draw you ever more deeply into the beautiful depths of the mysteries of his kingdom.